Twice a year, the NASCAR Nationwide Series runs at Dover International Speedway, and morning showers have given way to a high sky and some sunshine as we're getting ready for final practice. Now, it was just 2 weeks ago that the story in the garage area was about 1 foot and a great drive all the way from back to front.
Edwards is still nursing a broken right foot, but I'm guessing his foot's not the biggest discomfort he's feeling right now since he starts 39th tonight.
Can't say enough about Carl Edwards with that foot and starting dead last and getting all the way up to the front right there now.
Carl Edwards in that 60 car, he's been turning lap times faster than the leader, and he has been nothing but on the move.
Whoa, whoa, he's around.
Oh, they got contact, and here goes Carl. Oh, what a sound. Pit lane opened early. Leader Kevin Harvick came in. So did Carl Edwards. Who's going to win the race off pit road? And it looks like it's going to be Carl Edwards. The big question is now, how's he do the backflip?
Man, my guys did great. Dan Stillman and all these guys, they did it for me tonight. That pit stop's what got me in the victory lane.
So that sets the stage once again as Carl and Kyle will renew their battle for the championship as they're 1 and 2 in the points, with Kyle leading Carl. But there is a third player, and that third player has actually been hotter on the concrete than either of the other two. His name's Brad Keselowski.
Joey Logano. Could he get a win on the 1-year anniversary?
Kyle's still with you, halfback.
He's been looking high and low, trying to get around his teammates.
Here you go. You got Kyle Busch on the outside. He might have him this time.
There you go. Way to be patient. Caution's out. Caution's out.
Logano gets a great start.
Yeah, he was ready for Kyle Busch right there.
He gets him right there. He got him. Here goes Keselowski for the lead.
What a finish here at Dover, Delaware.
Wow, man. Damn it. That's pathetic right there. Guys, just work on this race car. Keep your mouth shut about this.
I take total blame for it. I got to find him and apologize to him.
So Joey's move allowed Brad to sneak around and take the win, but believe it or not, Brad has not been lower than 5th in any of his last 5 starts, and he has picked away at the lead held by Kyle Busch by 201 over Carl and 297 over Brad Keselowski. Now, rightfully so, an act of divine intervention or Kyle having a total collapse is the only way he loses this championship, but it has happened once before, but we'll just wait and see. Let's come inside our pit studio and bring in Dale Jarrett, because we were watching first practice today, and there were a couple of other names that may play a little bit of a role as spoiler.
Yeah, we've got quite a few guys that are running well. This is a racetrack that a lot of people seem to run good at. But a name up on top of the list from that first practice session was Clint Boyer in the 29 car. That's something we came to expect to see, but probably the last 12, 14 months, we haven't seen a lot of that. So it's nice to see him back up there. Ryan Newman loves this racetrack. He's in Kevin Harvick's ride this weekend in the 33 car. He was 6th quickest in that practice. And then Jason Leffler always runs well here. He was just outside the top 10 in 11. So I think these are 3 guys we can watch to put some pressure on these other guys.
Well, and there's a guy who's basically got himself a home game this week. He lives about 2 hours up the road. As they say in Texas, it's just down the road a piece. And that's where we find Andy Petrie. He's in his garage.
Yeah, Marty, I'm down here in the garage stall with Martin Truex Jr. He's driving for Phoenix Racing, the #1 car this weekend for the 2nd time this year. And this is what he considers his home track, so he wants to do well. But they weren't all that great in practice. I talked to Nick Harris, the car chief. He said they had some problems with the way the car gets down in the corner and gets down on the springs, they call it. They're going to work on that. They've changed the right front spring, some shocks, and some front end settings. So they feel like they're going to be a lot better here. They weren't nearly as good as they felt like they should be for Martin to be competitive on the race tomorrow, but they really are going to make a lot of changes. We're going to be down here in their garage stall while they're doing that, and we'll try to give you an up-close personal look at it. So we'll follow the 1 car during practice. Shannon?
Andy, there are really 3 drivers who stand out when we come to these concrete surface tracks. Ironically, all 3 of them are parked side by side in the garage here this weekend. Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch. All 3 of these drivers could be called Concrete King, because between the 3 of them, they have 11 wins in the Nationwide Series on concrete surfaces. But there's a driver who's looking to dethrone these 3 here this weekend. His name is Denny Hamlin. Hamlin has 2 wins here at Dover, and he's in the 20 car this weekend. This is the car that sat on the pole and led 87 laps here earlier this season. Now, while the 20 team has fallen off the charts as of late, only finishing in the top 10 in 7 of the last 8 races, they are looking to Denny Hamlin this weekend to go back on top and earn their throne here at Dover. Jamie?
Well, Shannon, something the Nationwide Series is always great for is seeing new faces and in different places. That's the case here today at Dover. Mike Bliss, if you remember, he lost his ride in the 1 car mid-season. Despite that, he has maintained his 9th position in the points. He was quick this morning in practice and his first time ever in the 11 car for CJM Racing. He finished 2nd here in the spring, so he is somebody to watch for. Also, Jarrett Johnson. He's the younger brother of 3-time Sprint Cup champion Jimmy Johnson. He's looking to make his 2nd ever Nationwide Series start. He is in the 07 car. You're looking at the 10 now of Reed Sorensen. First time ever in this car. Things started out okay this morning, but a cut tire led to a wreck. They are in a backup car. Now, of course, we've been talking a lot about Reed Sorensen in the last week. He's racing for free on the Cup side. Coming up in the next few minutes, we will have Reed with us, and we'll talk to him about his future in the Nationwide Series. Marty?
And Jamie, tell those guys to not start that motor when you've got to be on camera. They always do that to us. All right, let's talk about what's going to be coming up on the motorsports calendar, because coming up next on the Sprint Cup Series side, it'll be qualifying. And then on Sunday at 1 Eastern on ABC, it is the Sprint Cup Series. The chase continues here at Dover, presented by Burger King. And then for Nationwide Series action, we'll have qualifying tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. And then the race will follow at 3 Eastern, also on ESPN2. And for drag racing fans, O'Reilly Superstar Batteries NHRA Fall Nationals qualifying 12:15 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2, with the finals 7 o'clock Eastern Sunday night, also on ESPN2.
It's time to feel what it's like to be the seasoned vet on top of the standings and a hungry pack anxious to respond. Time to dig deep to avoid getting devoured by one monstrous mile. The chase continues at Dover, Sunday at 1 Eastern on ABC.
NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice, brought to you by Prescription Flomax.
And as you can see, cars have yet to take the track, and that is under the schedule. I mean, we're not being held up by anything, ill-fated, as we're just getting started about 20 minutes after coming on the air. But it gives us a chance to touch base on several of the stories here. And we talked about the fact that Andy Petrie was in Martin Truex's camp. Let's check in once again.
Yeah, Marty down here with Martin Truex before he straps in the car here for practice. And Martin, you came walking over here from the Cup garage, and one question a lot of people have is, what do you actually get out of coming over here and running with the Nationwide guys?
It's fun. We all love to race, all of us do, and you come over here, it's a whole lot less pressure. These guys called me a few weeks ago and asked me to drive a few races, and I picked 2 tracks I really enjoy: Richmond, which we ran a few weeks ago and had a good run, and here. So this is one of my favorite tracks, and I just like to come up here and race on Saturday.
Well, you were top 15 in the first practice. Probably not exactly where you want to be. What do you feel like you have to be competitive here?
Yeah, I mean, we were off a little bit. I've never drove these cars at a bigger track like this since they changed the engine with the tapered spacer. So it's kind of new to me. I'm still kind of learning what I need to be doing. But the car was off a little. We were having trouble with the front end being too high, getting down in the corner, and it would slam down in the racetrack too hard. So it took too long for the car to settle down in the corner, and that just slows your whole corner speed down. So working on that a little bit, and hopefully we'll get it better, and we'll see here in a few minutes.
Okay, Marty, just hope he gets it where he likes it and he can have a little fun on Saturday.
Well, and I found it interesting, his comment when you asked him about what the benefits are, but he's had some success here, so maybe the benefits are you just get out there and you enjoy that experience on a track. In fact, it's not been that long ago in the Sprint Cup Series when he took it and parlayed it to a victory.
For Martin Truex, this track is home.
I got to tell you, that little car has been amazing. How many laps has he had today?
Martin Truex Jr. is going to win his first Cup race.
Ah! Whoa! Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Martin Truex is the man.
And Martin Truex is going to be our in-race reporter tomorrow on our NASCAR Nationwide Series coverage. If you've got a question, just log on to ESPN.com, search Ask the Driver, and maybe your question will be the one asked to Martin. Let's check in right now with Jamie Little, because she's caught up with Reed Sorensen.
Well, as promised, we did catch up before he climbed in the car for practice. So let's first talk about the Nationwide Series and being in this 10 car for the first time. Take us through what happened this morning, though. I'm glad to see you're all right, first of all.
Well, the Nationwide car this morning was great. I think it was our 3rd run. We were just kind of taking it easy and getting faster every lap. And I've had some really, really good cars here in the past, and I thought that one was just as good as anyone I've had here before. So it drove good, nice and smooth all the way through the corner. Drove great. Didn't have any signs of any trouble coming ahead. And you know, just all at once there off of 4, we popped a tire. I don't know if the tie rod was rubbing the sidewall or whatnot, but something got it there, and it went straight into the fence. And that car's pretty much junk now. So I don't really know anything about this car. I think you know more than me. So I don't know what it's going to do. I know they worked really hard on that other car, and it was fast. So hopefully this one will be just as good. And just want to thank Todd Braun and AccuDoc just for giving us the chance to come out here, and we'll see what this one has.
Yes, you guys loaned this car from the 38. Jason Leffler actually had a top 10 finish with it in May, so you're in good hands there. Let's talk about the Cup side. Last week, big story on ESPN.com that you were racing for free. Is that still the case for the remainder of the year, and is it paying off for you, Reed?
Well, no, I don't think anything's going to change from, you know, now to the end of the year as far as all that stuff goes. But I mean, I'm here at the track, and that's the best thing I think to do. And it's you know, keeping all those guys on that team employed. And you know, we made a commitment to our sponsors, you know, McDonald's, Air Force, Valvoline, everybody involved, and you know, they made a commitment to me to run the whole season. So just trying to fulfill that commitment. And I don't want to be sitting at home watching these races. So just trying to make sure I'm here the whole season, and going to run a few more nationwide races for Todd Braun here, and hopefully get some good runs with a Dollar General car and see what this thing has today. I'm excited to get back out there, but at the same time, I wanted to actually skip this practice just because the cars are so different. You know, we got Cup qualifying next, and we weren't even going to run this practice. So we'll see what it has, and hopefully it's as good as the other one.
All right, Marty, well, rumor has it he's looking around for a full-time nationwide ride, so perhaps Braun Racing's taking an eye on this race.
Well, and the news earlier this week, Todd is going to run 5, including the Daytona 500, in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series next year. He has not named his driver. He said it could be Leffler, it could be Reed Sorensen. So a bit of a big audition, at least for a 5-race deal, which may lead into something else. You never know. All right, there is one guy that doesn't have to worry about a ride next year. There he is, Clint Boyer, and we'll take a look at how, well, his spotter plays a key role when we come back. Back here at Dover International Speedway, you're looking at the man who was fastest in our first practice session for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. His spotter, like all, are key, and especially here, coming out of turns 2 and 4, where it can really be treacherous. It's serious business, but a sense of humor helps as we go 3 wide.
I feel like, you know, a good spotter goes a lot farther than just, you know, clear high, clear low. And, you know, I think he's a decent spotter.
I'm decent.
Clint, I'm pretty sure you're out handling most everybody out here, too. I know you don't like what you got, but still, we're fast.
Mike and Clint were real solid on the radio. The thing, Mike tried to keep a little humor in it all the time to try to keep the pressure down, and I think that helped some.
Clint, you won't believe this, but all your supporters up here have left. Wait a minute, Big Brother's still here. He's eating a cheeseburger. But it's too hot for Pop? Yeah, I think he just got disgusted.
A lot of guys wouldn't accept the way we chatter on the radio. I mean, but it works for Clint.
Go on, baby. That's 3 wide. You know where you at.
That's not baby like
usually
honey
like,
baby.
Come on, baby.
Come on, baby. That's kind of like, come on, you know, I look at it like I'm riding a horse. I'm cracking the whip. It's time to go, you know.
Come on, stay in the gas. Get you some. Come on. Stay in the gas. Let's go. Get down there. There you go, boys.
Him and I both have a small case of ADD.
Probably same level of ADD, so we know when each other's trigger's been tripped, we can help each other out.
And that's where I kind of come in, balance the ADD, and that's hard to do.
Let's lay back and get a run. You know how to get it done, buddy.
He jumps in like a dad would with a couple kids, you know. We'll get to going on. He said, all you'll hear is, all right, y'all need to focus. And it's like, kind of okay.
He's always that calming voice from above. You don't ever know where it's at, but you know it's above.
Clint Boyer's hearing from the voice on high. Richard Childress on top of a hauler.
Good, you're killing them off the corner.
You got to have that respect for one another, and you know, we obviously have that. We tried it. We actually broke up for a while, and we tried it for what, a year or so.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah.
We didn't go a year. We've never gone a year. We ain't gone more than 4 or 5 races probably.
Yeah.
Been a few races, and
he can't do it without me.
Well, Well, down here right now with Clint Boyer, he has climbed into his car. He was on top of the speed charts first practice. He wasn't in qualifying trim, though. He said, hey, we're just fast, baby. So if you're fast, what are you guys looking for in this practice here today, Clint?
You know, just good balance. Sun's come out. You know, it was really cool that first practice. This is going to be more like it's going to be in the race. So just finding a good balance, you know, and that's going to be, go a long ways. A lot of more rubber on the track tire Goodyear brought. I like it a lot. It's got a, it's stable underneath heavy and got a lot of grip. So I'm just looking forward to having a good run here. The Holiday Inn Chevrolet hasn't been the best in the last couple of weeks, but really proud of the guys and their efforts and bringing a good car here to Dover.
Now, Clint, you've had a lot of success here at Dover, including a win. One of the things we talk about with concrete tracks is the consistency. How much has this track changed over the years?
Yeah, it really hasn't. It seems to be the same old track, and I think that goes, towards the concrete. Like I say, it's very fun, very fast. Keep your momentum up and let it sing. So a lot of fun to race on, and a lot of different lines. A lot of people really let it roll up in the middle and get a good run up off. Some guys throttle through the middle and keep it way tight on the bottom. That's kind of the way I do. Kind of a catfish.
Good luck to you guys. Now, Stephen Light was supposed to be in this 29 car this week. The team made the change on Monday, according to the representative. It's because Clint's record is so good here. They just thought he'd have a better chance of being competitive here at Dover. And Clint Boyer will be in this car for the next 3 races, Marty.
Well, and he was good. I mean, even late in the session on old tires, he was consistently like 0.2 of a second quicker than everybody else that was on track at the same time.
Well, and that's exactly the reason they brought him here. A team that's been struggling, that we expect a lot more from. Bring a driver that knows what he's looking for in the car and had success. So I think they found that here. Great to see them back up front. That was a great piece. The spotter's an important part of a driver's success, and especially as you mentioned here at Dover, coming off of turns 2 and 4 can be very, very helpful. And when you have a relationship like that, you feel comfortable in the car listening to what they say.
And as you can tell by the roar in the background and the spotters actively working the headsets, yes, we are finally green for this final practice session. Right up until about 3 o'clock we'll be with you Eastern time. And there is the points leader, Kyle Busch, and already in his second lap he's up to 150 and change. And you can see, or you were with us, you saw what happened to him in the first race this year when Joey Logano got into him and took him out.
Yeah, and we come to find out since then that they had a right front tire issue. So that's the reason that all of that happened. So that's in the past. It's just an unfortunate situation for Kyle. He had the race probably won if the caution doesn't come out. It looked like he was going to, but had a tire issue.
And if you remember also, that meant it was Brad Keselowski who got around both of them for the win. And guess who is top of the speed charts already? And 23.85 seconds at 150.9 miles an hour. And there's his practice speed from first session, and everybody just working up to it. What I've noticed already, though, the black is really coming in.
It's what every driver down there's talking about that I talked with this morning. They really like this. The tire that Goodyear has brought here now is one that everybody loves. They like the feel of it, the stagger that they have, but the best thing is they're seeing rubber down on this racetrack, and what that allows them to do is drive the heck out of these cars and put on a good show.
Same tire for both Nationwide and Sprint Cup this weekend, too.
Yeah, it really is. They had 8 teams to come up here from the Cup Series that did the testing. Good drivers. Montoya was here, Jimmy Johnson, a lot of guys, and they really dialed this in, and these guys are really happy with what they have to work with.
Well, one of the guys that was fast in the first practice session was Denny Hamlin. Got an interesting story, I think, Shannon, don't you?
The door still says Denny Hamlin, Marty, but it's actually Matt DiBenedetto who's in the car right now. The team has told me that Denny wants to focus on his Cup stuff right now, and just, he feels very comfortable where this 20 car is. Like I said earlier in the show, they sat on the pole earlier this season. They're very fast in practice, so they decided to throw Matt in the car just to shake it down a little bit. Denny may come over a little bit later and get back in this car, but Matt will also, he'll be racing this car in Memphis, in the 20 car at Memphis, and he's been fast here at Dover already. He's actually sitting on the pole in the East Series, so he's got a feel for this track. He's tested with this team before, so they're going to let him go out and just shake this car down a little bit before Denny comes over here.
Nothing like a little pressure.
Yeah, that's throwing him right into the fire there. But he is a very talented young race driver. Again, not experienced in these cars, so I'm sure that he'll take it easy. But I certainly understand where Denny Hamlin's coming from. His next thing on his agenda is qualifying his Cup car. And he had a great race last week, got himself in a good position. Because these cars are so different and they drive so different, I can certainly see where Denny's coming from, especially since he has a feel from the first practice.
So while I'll wait for that to roll on out on the track, there is Clint Boyer, second on the charts right now at 150.7 miles an hour. Everybody's still just warming up, getting a little loose, and trying to figure out the difference, because remember, even Clinton mentioned it, we were under overcast conditions first practice, now the sun's out.
I think that's very important for these guys to be out in this practice session, because we're close to within an hour of when the race is going to start tomorrow afternoon. So I think this is a very important session for them, because the track has changed, more rubber on it and more sunshine.
One early surprise as we continue to watch Clint Boyer is who's running third on the speed charts. There he is, Michael Annett, the Iowa resident, former hockey standout. There was his first practice session where he was 150.8, and he's just a tick under that, despite the fact that the sun's on the track.
Yeah, it looks like maybe he went out and made a mock qualifying attempt there. He only put 2 laps on the racetrack, where a number of these other guys are still running in a race trim type situation, but still a good lap for Michael Annett.
And I was checking, and it did look like he was taped up for that mock run. There goes Clint Boyer again, zipping around, and there is Kyle Busch. Last few races, Kyle has not led a great deal of laps, and the reason I bring that up is he is zeroing in on a landmark. He's about 56 laps away from leading 2,000 laps for a single season. It's only been done once before. We'll tell you who it was when we come back here to Dover International Speedway. Final practice continues. Back here at Dover, you look in on Kyle Busch as he is pulled back into the garage area. And right before the break, we talked about the fact he's 56 laps away from 2,000 led in a single season. Only one other man has cracked that mark, and it is the legendary Sam Ard. He did it.
Him, yeah.
Did it
a lot
in
of those.
29 races, 2,127 laps led. Kyle, this will be his 28th race of the season. That would be some exclusive company, and it's amazing. All these records, as Kyle's pulling back out, all these records he keeps breaking, and how many times it keeps coming back to Sam Ard.
Sam Ard was a tough competitor, I can assure you. I was fortunate enough to race against him a lot of years.
Whoa, and look out!
Wheel right.
One guy who's been setting records, and one guy who wanted to
can you drive it back in?
At least
I think we got the inside
take a
wall.
step in the right direction, just took a step in the wrong direction. This is Matt DiBenedetto. The responsibility of taking that 20 car, which led all those laps here in May with Joey Logano at the wheel.
Yeah, drive it on back in. Just take it
boy,
easy.
he banged up hard.
Yeah, this car, they're going to have to go to a backup here. But I'd watched him from going from the last spot on the timesheet in his first lap. Then he moved it up to about the 23rd, 24th spot. And then the lap prior to crashing here, he'd moved up to the 16th quickest time. So he was picking it up maybe just a little quicker than what he needed to. It's unfortunate. You go out there, you want to get the job done, but you have to be careful.
Look, as we take another look at flashback, if you're his age right now and you do this, what are you going to tell these guys when you get back in?
I don't know. I'd never even driven a race car when I was his age, but I don't know. You can just see it's a tough racetrack for the veterans. You'll see guys before this weekend over coming off of turn 2 that have been here many, many times, and they're going to get sideways and lose it there too. It's just the car really unloads as you come up out of there. You're carrying a lot of speed. The unfortunate thing, most places he would have been okay just spinning down, but the straightaways are banked so much here that it just takes you right down to that inside wall.
Well, and notice on the inside, there's no runoff area. There's the wall, and here it comes. Crunch. So a tough break for Matt, he's on the pole for the Camping World East race that's going to be running about 5 o'clock this evening here. It'll be his third pole in 7 starts in that series, and right now he's not feeling too good.
No, that's just a time that you don't even want to get out of the car right there. You just want to keep your helmet on and kind of sit there and stay away because you're not feeling very good. But again, a very talented young race driver. He just needs seat time in these type cars and at racetracks like this.
The 18-year-old replacing Denny Hamlin, who, if you were not with us, decided to sit out this practice session to focus on qualifying, which is coming up next right here on ESPN2 after we get off the air at 3 o'clock. And DiBenedetto, he's won 2 of the 10 Camping World East Series races this year. And right now, he's wishing he had about the last 5 minutes of his life back. All right, while we get things sorted out and cleaned up here under this first red flag situation of final practice, we'll step aside. The chase for the Sprint Cup continues Sunday at the Monster Mile. Championship lead has changed 4 of the last 5 seasons in Dover's fall race. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Dover, presented by Burger King at 1 Eastern Sunday on ABC. Well, you can see that the cars are back out on track here in final practice. That's what's left of the 20 car that Matt DiBenedetto just stuffed into the wall on the backstretch coming out of turn 2. And a lot of damage. In fact, Andy Petrie is on his way over to check it out because we saw the guys right before break pushing the backup car back into the trailer. Maybe they can fix this. Let's check in with Shannon, see what she knows.
Well, actually, guys, we're going to catch up with Matt in just a second. Dave Rogers just wants to debrief with him and chat with him before we talk with him. This is the first time that they've had a chance to talk since he's climbed out of that car. Hearing that they are going to pull out the backup car, though, I did speak with Dave Rogers. He said that that car raced at Nashville and won at Nashville. It's got about 3 races on it. Right now, they still don't know about the motor. They're going to check with their motor department to see if they can transfer that to the backup car. Andy?
Yeah, Shannon, I'm over here just checking out the car that they crashed, and it's definitely a backup car situation. It's knocked the rear clip over, the front damage. There's not much they can do here but go to a backup. But some of the things that they'll do, they may take like the shocks off of it and put on their primary car that they've developed during that first practice session, and maybe a carburetor, a few things like that. They may take off of this wrecked car and put on that backup car just because they do have a little bit of time on the racetrack, you know, with that situation and the shock package that they had. So we'll watch and see what they do as far as getting this backup car ready.
Andy, keep your mic on because I want to ask you, I want to get involved in this. I mean, right, we're in the Philadelphia area. Phillies fans are all over Brad Lidge. He's blown like 11 saves. Second guessing's a nature of sports. If you were the crew chief, would you have wanted to put this 18-year-old into this car?
Well, Marty, that's a good question. I really questioned that when I heard that he was going to practice this car, and I do understand the situation of Hamlin not wanting to take the car out before Cup qualifying because the cars are so much different. But the Nationwide cars are a lot different than the Camping World East cars, and especially the tire they run on. Even though he's had some time on the racetrack this week, Matt has, it's just not the same. And I think it was a risky move. They probably wanted to get him some seat time, which would have been a good idea, but a little bit risky, and as it proved here, kind of a thump on his confidence level too, and you don't really want to do that to a young driver.
DJ, before I bring you back into this, let's go back. We've got his radio transmission. This is right before he hit the wall.
Yeah, 10-4. And I guess you talked to him about you can't drive these cars as hard in the corner, or it's going to be a little bit freer off.
All right, let me ask you, as a driver in this situation, what does this do to his confidence?
Well, it certainly will be a hit to that, but he has to understand this is not something that every driver out here hasn't been through in an opportunity they've had. You've gone out, you've been excited about your opportunity. But going back to that radio communication there, I was watching the Camping World East cars qualify, and they drive those cars so much further down in the corner because they don't have the horsepower even that these cars do. Plus, as Andy brought up, the radial tire on these cars is a much different feel than what they have on those. So it's just a situation that he wanted to be careful, and he was, but then he was trying to build that confidence to where he could show that he could go a little bit faster. So, yeah, that's going to be they'll talk to him. There's a lot of good people like Joe Gibbs Racing that handle situations just like this very well. And my advice to him, hey, put it behind you. It's hard to do, but you got a race this afternoon that you can go get in that car and do well and get some of that confidence back.
And you heard Shannon talk a little bit earlier. He is going to make his debut in Memphis in October in the last standalone Nationwide Series race for Joe Gibbs Racing. So we will get a second chance to see him, and I guarantee you he'll be thinking about trying to do a little bit better than this time. All right, so we've sort of put a temporary period on it. We'll still try and talk to Matt after he does his debrief with the team, but action going on back out on the track. Whoa, Jason Leffler looks like he was trying to step out.
There's a guy that's been here quite a few times and is usually very fast here and is running well today, but you can see the struggles that he's having. The guys told me that the new tire that they have here for this race turns a lot better, so most everybody's been fighting a looser condition than what they've had here in the past, so most everyone's had to tighten their cars up somewhat.
Jason 19th on the speed charts currently here in this final practice session. And we get more on the 38 from Shannon Spake.
And 3 weeks of just bad races for this 38 team. Jason Leffler really looking forward to getting back on the track here this weekend. His first run, he said, I just don't like the feel of this car, so they brought it back in and they put it back to the first setup that they tried earlier this morning. Sticker tires, they fixed the track bar and also messed around with the springs a little bit. So right now, Jason Leffler out on the track trying out that setup. Hopefully something to hit on here at Dover, get this team back on track.
Well, he's not stepping out this last couple laps. Of course, now checking the charts, he's still 19th, 24.4 his last lap. His best lap was 24.1. So get an idea, they still got some work to do. Our quickest lap, Brad Keselowski at 23.83 seconds. Checking in on Brendan Gaughan now in the 62. And Brendan, 12th on the speed charts, and that's a lot better than he did this morning when the shade was on the track.
Yeah, it looks like they've made some adjustments on this race car and getting it more to Brendan's liking. I think the one thing we heard Andy talk about this early in the show with Martin Truex's car, getting these cars to literally land, because you go downhill, it's like you fall off a little bit of a cliff going down into the corners. We go down the back straightaway here, and as you go down, the car just literally falls out from under you, and getting it to land on the springs and the wheels pointed in the right direction is something most of these guys fight. And if you can just help that a little bit, it's amazing how much time you can pick up around here.
Jamie Little, there was a change on that 62 team a little bit earlier this week.
There sure was. It was actually this morning, Marty. This is what happened, and I'm sure mistakes like this do slip through the cracks sometimes, but Brendan Gaughan's team showed up, brought the car off the trailer. They found out that they had an unsealed motor put in the car, and it was a mistake. Richard Childress Racing sent the wrong motor. Of course, they had to swap it out and put a sealed motor into that. So, Brewer, I want to go to you and ask you, what's the difference, and how do these officials see the difference?
NASCAR actually requires you to run a sealed engine every 4th race, but the seal is implemented right here. You see how it comes through the water pump bolt right here, Jamie, and it comes over here to the cylinder head bolt. Now what that does, it keeps the teams from actually pulling the cylinder heads off, pulling the pistons and the connecting rods out of the engine. By keeping the water pump sealed, you can't take the camshaft out. You can do any maintenance you need to the valve spring components, as well as rocker arms ratios you can change, but to keep that engine sealed, keeping the cylinder heads on both sides, keeping the camshaft in it, that's the reason they want to deter the cost of racing. That's the reason you run sealed engines.
Great explanation, Tim. Thanks. As they're the 62 back into the garage area, and they'll continue work on that sealed power plant. Brad Keselowski still leading the top of the charts, but we get an update from Shannon. I think you've caught up with Matt DiBenedetto.
That's right. Matt is out from debriefing with Dave Rogers. First of all, are you okay, and what happened out there?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was running out there and they just wanted me to make some laps and, get some tires scuffed. Just they had a little trouble with loose on exit earlier in the day and they wanted to see if they fixed it. So I went out there and I was just cruising. Obviously, it's Denny's car, so I'm just going to go out there and take it easy. And, I was just kind of riding around about half second off the pace just to be safe. And came up off the corner and I used a different steering wheel than Denny does, a bigger one. And something I probably should have checked on more. One of them things, I came up off the corner and my left hand got caught up on all my belts, and it just for that split second that it got caught up on all the belts, just kind of started, my hand was stuck to the left and then it looped the car right around, and something as stupid as that can kill the car like that. So I feel horrible for Denny and all the guys. I should have checked that out a little bit more. I got in the car and felt comfortable with everything, but it's one of them things that you just can't help, and so I feel horrible, but I guess something that'll teach you, and you got to learn the hard way sometimes, so I'll move on from it.
Definitely a strong team for you to be with. Dave Rogers, a great cheerleader for his drivers. What did he say to you when you went inside the hauler?
Yeah, he was telling me, don't worry about it, and it's fine, which obviously that's a little tough to convince me of. I feel pretty horrible right now, and it's disappointing to do that to Denny and all the guys and everybody, and it's just, he was just saying, that's one of them fluke things that it's just, how can you tell that your hand's going to get caught up on the belts and something dumb like that will happen? So everything, it's just one of them things that's meant to be, and it all happens for a reason. So So the good Lord upstairs is looking out for me to happen for some crazy reason. Just don't know why yet.
And we'll see you in Memphis. But very interesting, Marty, that we talk a lot about the Cup drivers going from the Nationwide cars to the Cup cars. But here we've seen it in reverse with the East Series and the Nationwide Series, the differences between the two cars.
Well, and if he's got the bit between his teeth, he's going to have one of his best races tonight because he'll be able to focus if it hasn't shaken his confidence. That'll be what we'll look at. What was your take on this?
Said a lot of good things. I understand exactly where he's coming from there. I've had that situation myself, but obviously I didn't let it get to that point, and he'll learn from this. It won't happen again. It's easy to get in someone else's car and everything not to fit. He said he had a bigger steering wheel than what Denny was running, and that's just a driver preference there, but it got in the way of the belts, and you don't see it. And this is a tough racetrack right here, and those type of things happening. So he'll know the next time to really check that out, be a little more on top of that. Said a lot of good things there, and this young man has a lot of talent. I've heard about him literally for the last 3 or 4 years, racing around in the Hickory area and some other areas. Has a lot of talent, so he'll move on from there, and I'm sure that Joe Gibbs Racing, they're not going to look at him any differently. They understand that things like this happen.
Just another example how the smallest detail, like the size of the steering wheel, can have a major impact on how you're performing inside the car. Take a look at the top speeds right now here in final practice. Ryan Newman on top now. He's just turned a lap at 151.8. All the way down to Justin Allgaier in 10th. How about our motorsports calendar for the weekend? We've got a lot of action for you. Coming up next will be NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying, and then the race presented by Burger King on ABC Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. How about the NASCAR Nationwide Series? We'll have qualifying tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and then the race at 3 o'clock Eastern also on ESPN2. And then we've got drag racing also, the O'Reilly Superstar Batteries NHRA Fall Nationals qualifying at 12:15 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2. And then the finals, 7 Eastern, Sunday evening, also on ESPN2. On the racetrack right now, you're looking at Matt Kenseth. And Kenseth in the City Financial Ford, a 2-time winner. But no Dover wins in his last 9 starts.
No, not yet, but running a lot of laps here in practice trying to get this car ready for the race tomorrow. And yesterday, City Financial, as they do at a lot of the events and communities that they're involved in, they hosted a deal for about 100 kids that Greg Biffle was a part of, signing autographs for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware. So just another example of some of these sponsors and teams and drivers giving back.
And looking at the times, this could be an example of the difference between being in the cloud cover this morning when he was 3rd on the charts, and right now he's 19th, and he's run a total of 30 laps.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is they've been out here about 12 laps this time, and so I think they're just literally not thinking about speed. They're thinking about what they can do for their car as the track now is rubbered up and gotten more into race conditions. They want to see what they have. This will be a good time for them to check their tire temperatures and the tire wear that they're getting with this new tire.
Well, let's check in once again with Andy. Martin Truex right now shown 12th. Andy, what's going on?
Well, they've been making a little bit of headway, Marty. They changed, like I said, all those changes between practice sessions and got the car a little bit better. But talking to Martin, he said the car is still not just in the racetrack like he wants it. He said they're going to put it up on scales here. They're going to change some springs, the 2 front springs, and they're going to change the trailing arms. He said they have full split on these trailing arms. They have the holes in the front. They're adjustable, so they can change the height of the pivot point. So they're going to change that. They're going to flatten it out a little bit because they just can't get the feel that Martin's looking for. He kind of knows what he needs, even though these cars are a lot different than the Cup cars. But he says it's just not right yet, even though they are, like I said, 11th on the speed chart, still not where they need to be. So they're going to make some big changes right here and then go back out and try.
What was the thing you changed, it seemed like, the most when you, or did it vary from race to race?
Yeah, I think, especially at this racetrack, working with the front springs to get this car to land, because it literally does do that. It's almost like the front end just comes up, and then as you land back on those front springs, that can make the difference as to where you get back to the throttle, how good your car turns at that point in time, and how soon you can get back to the throttle and carry the speed up out of these corners. Because you go downhill into the corners, you run uphill out of the corners, and you have to really make that front end work at this racetrack to be successful.
Well, you can see the concern on Martin's face as it's not as much fun right now as he talked about at the beginning of the show. So we'll see what they do with those changes. In fact, why don't we check in with Tim Brewer in the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim, he talked about a lot of those changes.
Tell you what we got, guys. This is the installed height of a spring. When you go down in the corner, this is what the spring actually looks like. But you're getting so much wheel travel when you go down in the corner. What DJ is referring to, you got a lot of camber gain in the car, you got a lot of spring rate, but the big difference is actually having enough clearance for the tire, because if the tire hits the fender, it literally jerks the wheel out of the driver's hand, getting him loose. So you want that car to go off, and you're talking 3 stories from the straightaway down to the center of the corner. 3 stories is a long way. A lot of compression, a lot of downforce on the front. So the guys have to work really hard to make sure that everything works well together.
That's a good explanation, Tim. And as a driver, if you can't get that feel and that confidence in your car, because you carry a lot of speed into these corners, and if you can't have that good feel, then it's just going to make your lap time slower, and you're not going to be able to pick the throttle up. So that's a part that they're really working hard on, is the front end of these cars.
At the beginning of the broadcast, as they continue work, we talked about guys that are trying to make impressions because they're looking for jobs. Of course, we talked to Reed Sorensen. How about Mike Bliss? He's in the 11 car this week. Now, this is the same ride that Scott Lagasse Jr. had been in most of the year until he was relieved shortly after the Iowa race. And you can see where Mike is 8th in the first practice, 9th right now in this practice, and looking very good. And he's had success here before.
He is an excellent race driver at this racetrack, and we've seen a number of guys. Denny Hamlin got in this car earlier this year that have really done well. I actually think Scott Lagasse was doing a good job in the car, but you know, they had to make changes. But Mike Bliss will be a factor in this race tomorrow.
How about this graphic to back up what you said and what I felt also? I thought Lagasse was doing fine. His best finish in 21 starts, 8th. The only person who's had a better finish in this car all year long was Trevor Bayne in 7th. Denny Hamlin twice. His best finish 32nd. Kelly Byers 32nd. And Brian Scott 30th. And Andrew Ranger, that was the road course race up in Montreal. Jamie, you've got more?
And Marty, this team's hoping to better that and get a victory here. The team tells me there's been a lot of cheerleaders for Mike Bliss on this team wanting to get him in the car. Right now, he's just working on comfort. You see Paul Wolf, that is the crew chief on the right-hand side. This man knows how to get around this racetrack. He's led 204 laps in the Camping World East. That's more than any other driver in this series. So how comforting to know that your driver and your crew chief are speaking the same language, and nothing like finding out last Monday that they were working together, guys.
Well, for Mike Bliss, this is his 3rd different car in the last 3 races. He's just been trying to hold on to that top 10 position in the points. He's currently 9th. How about Brad Keselowski? Let's check in. He was leading the speed charts earlier in the day, but right now he finds himself 3rd behind Ryan Newman and David Rudiman. And there's Brad's numbers.
Yeah, that was Rudiman that was just in front of him as he pulled off. And Rudiman moved up to that 2nd position on the speed chart. I think that might have been a mock qualifying effort for David Rudiman, but showing that he's got a fast race car also.
Well, these are the only 3 cars that have topped 151 mile an hour average here today. Shannon, you've got more?
Well, that 88 car better be fast. That's the car that won here earlier this season. Brad Keselowski very happy with the car right now, guys. They're just messing around with things according to the team, going out and trying new things. But the biggest thing that we need to applaud this weekend, of course, on the right side of your screen, Tony Eury Sr., they call him Pops. He was in a car accident earlier this month on September 13th. We do have a caution on the racetrack right now, but Pops back on top of that pit box. He's working injured, though. He has a broken sternum, a broken rib, and just a wicked bump on his head. But he loves this racing stuff, guys, and you can't keep him away from this track.
All right, thanks for the update. And yes, we do wish Pops well, as there he is. And favoring that one side a little bit. As we mentioned, we've got a caution on the track. That's debris. Nobody made contact with the wall. And for Brad Keselowski, well, 3 of his 5 wins have come on concrete tracks. In fact, in the last 10 concrete races, he has been best of all. There's the speed charts where he's 3rd behind Ryan Newman and David Rudiman in final practice here at Dover. Back here at final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Dover International Speedway. 2 cars have yet to come out to practice. Jarrett Johnson, Jimmy's little brother, and Joe Nemechek, the 2 that have yet to come out of the garage area. They did both practice in the first session. Just 44 cars. There's Morgan Shepherd to the right of your screen in the 89. He just went out, turned 2 quick laps, and good news for Morgan Shepherd fans. He is 15th on the speed charts. Looks like it was a mock qualifying run. Looks like he may have enough to get into the race. In fact, let's take you back to a great moment in Nationwide Series history right here at Dover. Take a look at the 33 car. Guess who's behind the wheel?
Morgan Shepherd here is going to win this race. Tommy Houston right behind him there in the 6 car. So Morgan, some people forget how good a race driver Morgan was. Not only in what was the Busch Series at that time, but how well he did in the Cup Series later on. So.
And I think I said the 33 car. Obviously, it's the 77 car.
Well, it's kind of hard to see on the track there for a minute.
It's all right. It's, you know, one of those deals. But Morgan looked as good today as he did in that picture from 1986.
Yeah, well, he's kept himself in good shape. And as he's getting ready to go out and make another run, Carl Edwards has moved up to the 2nd spot on the list behind Ryan Newman now. So kind of flexing his muscle a little bit off of that win at Richmond.
He was 44 years old back then when he won that race. Now 67 and the oldest out here. Let's check in again on the number 1 car, Martin Truex. Andy, what's going on?
Yeah, you know what makes it so hard to be a crew chief is there's so many things on this race car that you can adjust, and it's literally hundreds. And it's so hard to figure out which one of those things is going to really make your car handle. They've been changing the height of the trailing arm pivot points at the front. Okay, you see right here, they've got 2 different sets of brackets for the left side, so you can run a long trailing arm or a short trailing arm. Obviously right here they've got a short one on, and also they've got these height adjustments. So they're changing the height of that pivot point, and you would be surprised just how much that'll affect the handling of the car. But it's always a combination of trying to get all of these things working in harmony and working together. And for some of the insight on how to make all this work, let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer.
Thanks, Andy. You're right. There's a lot of changes. But, folks, the trailing arm cross member is located right here in the center of the car. This bolt, that's actually what they're changing the height on. But coming out from under the car, we've got a bracket right here. And we got 3 holes on the left side. But what's more important, like Andy said, you can change the height. You can also change it from a real stiff combination that we run at Daytona or Talladega, taking the movement out of the trailing arm, or you can put in this medium rubber bushing right here. That lets it move just a little bit. Or when you're trying to get a lot of forward bite from the shock of the power going to the rear wheels, you might want to put this big rubber bushing in. And when you put it in a trailing arm, it gives it a little bit more flexibility, and that thing will actually tighten up the car from the center of the corner off.
Hey, that's good stuff, Brewer. Andy, I got a question for you as we look at this. They've also looked like, not only with that shorter left side trailing arm, but they've got it in what looks like the bottom hole, and then the right side trailing arm is in the upper hole. What are they accomplishing with that?
It's kind of funny you ask that, because I talked to Martin Truex, and he said that he has never driven a car that had what he calls maximum amount of split. And that's what you see there, that left side trailing arm all the way down. The right side was all the way up. So he didn't like the feel of that at all. He said that he's never driven a car that way, and so that he wanted to flatten that out. And that's what they're doing here, Dale, is they're lowering that right side to be closer. I think they may leave a little split in it, but not nearly as much as they have.
Well, Martin Truex has only run 12 laps. We have just less than 30 minutes left in this final practice session, and you can see that smiling face that we saw at the beginning of the broadcast is not smiling a lot right now. As we come back out onto the track, the 33 of Ryan Newman, and let's listen in on the team communication.
Motorman, I think I screwed your tack up just a little bit here. You'll have to check it just to make sure. I was just trying, I don't know how to work this Macintosh here, so just check over it.
10-4, we'll reset it. Yeah, if you set it, whatever it is, RPM the motor's running is where your lights will start at.
All right, you drivers, you slay me. You know, you can tell. Here's a guy that's went to college in engineering, and he can't remember how to work a Macintosh tack because he's never seen one.
Ryan's having a little fun there, too. He's pretty smart. But they have gotten a lot more complicated. It used to just be you had 2 buttons on there. You had a reset button that you would push, and then you had one that you had to recall to see what your maximum RPM was. But they've gotten a lot more complicated from that. And when you go to drive for someone else and they have things that are a little bit different, you're not exactly sure. You got to get yourself a little more familiar with that. But I'm pretty sure Ryan's a smart enough guy to figure this out.
Well, Clint Boyer just bumped Ryan down to second. Boyer moved back to the top of the heap, 23.69 seconds to Newman's 23.70.
Man, as we look at these times, we're setting up for one fantastic race tomorrow. These guys are so pleased with this tire, and I think Goodyear's doing a fantastic job with getting better tires for these drivers and these cars and things. And even though a lot of them are designed around the cars in the Cup Series, I think these guys are able to benefit from it too, and we're just going to be the beneficiaries by seeing some great racing.
To back you up, Clint Boyer is first, Ryan Newman, Carl Edwards, David Rubin, Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski. That's your top 6. Do you know that 5 of those 6 have won here at Dover in the Nationwide Series?
Oh, yeah. And they're within 1/10 of a second of each other as far as their fastest lap time, too.
The only guy who has not won in that top 6 group is David Rudiman. So that gives you an idea what we're in store for tomorrow. And, of course, we have qualifying tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Final practice down to the final 25 when we come back. The chase for the Sprint Cup continues Sunday at the Monster Mile. Bobby Allison in 83 and Bill Elliott in 88 are the only drivers to win both Dover races and the championship in the same season. Well, if you remember back in May, Jimmy Johnson won. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Dover presented by Burger King. 1 Eastern Sunday on ABC. Back here at Dover. Ooh, that's an ominous looking thing. And Shannon, what's going on with the 20 team right now?
Hey guys, right now the 20 team, as you see, they are working on this backup car, trying to get it out. Dave Rogers having some discussions with the NASCAR officials a little bit earlier. They wanted to put Kyle Busch in this car to try to shake it down. But according to Dave Rogers, they won't let him do that because veterans cannot swap cars. That is what Dave Rogers just told me. Still trying to see if Denny Hamlin's going to make it over here. But while I was talking to Dave Rogers, his cell phone rang, and guess who it was? Denny Hamlin. So right now, Rogers is talking to Hamlin. We don't know if he'll be able to make it over here in time. But, you know, you just talk about what a bummer for this 20 team right now.
DJ, you got your helmet?
Yeah, I don't actually have it. But yeah, that's a rule that I can honestly say that I've never heard, that veterans can't swap rides over there and do things. I didn't. I thought you were good to go get in anybody's car at any time. So that's an interesting, and maybe it's not new. I haven't been on the Nationwide side in quite a while as far as driving the car and knowing those small little things. But and especially being teammates, I don't see really how they can't do that. But I guess they can't. They say they can't.
There was Kyle. He's 9th on the speed charts right now. Let's talk to the man who's 4th, David Rudiman. Jamie?
Well, he's out of the car and he's finished for the day. And you guys said you have a pretty good car, but why quit early, David?
Well, we're just trying to get my mind back straight so when we go over there and do the Cup side. You know, if you practice right up to the end and then jump out of this and go over there and get in the Cup car, you're in the gas so much here at this place that may have an adverse effect over there. So we're trying to avoid that. We got a great Dollar General Toyota, and and sometimes you work on them too much, have a tendency to make them worse. So I think we're in a pretty good spot right now to stop, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Would you say the difference between these two cars is magnified at a track like Dover?
I really think so, especially here because with the tapered spacer plate and stuff. I mean, you get down in the corner as quick as it turns, you're really in the throttle, and you're driving really, really hard. And the Cup cars, you can get away with that in qualifying, but not as much, in race trim. So it's a little bit different driving mentality there, and you try not to carry one to the other side because it'll hurt you from one to the other. But we got a great car, guys did a good job, and probably not too good a qualifying lap. When we did our mock run, we were pretty tight, but I think we're pretty good for the race.
All right, David Rudiman got his car where he wants it now. He wants to get his mind where he wants it for qualifying, and the Cup Series coming up next, Marty.
All right, thanks, Jamie, and always do like that black and yellow combination. It always stands out as we check on the black and yellow of Eric Darnell.
Yeah, looks like the color of choice this weekend.
23rd on the speed charts right now, and tailing Ryan Newman, who is 2nd on the speed charts. So when you're 23rd, following the guy who's second, you might learn something.
Well, you got to pay attention, especially whenever you have a veteran driver like Ryan Newman up there, as we see Darnell getting ready to come in now. Yeah, it's always good that if you can see if they're doing something a little bit different than what you are as far as the line, or if their car is actually doing something different.
There in the second car in your screen is Tony Raines. Tony right now 27th on the speed charts, 24.27 miles an hour. That's 148 and change. That's about where he was. He was 23rd in the first practice. There you can see the difference.
Yeah, and I tell you what, looking at these speed charts, you talk about their fast lap for Tony Raines was a 24.27, but you're not seeing much fall off with these tires. And that's something really good. That's what's going to make the racing really good and allows these guys to make changes to their cars to really get them good too.
I remember seeing Tony after the Montreal race, and he was just worn out. He ran it into the top 10, and he was just worn out after that. He says, I've never worked so hard for a top 10 in my life. Let's find out. Shannon, I think you've caught up to Dave Rogers. Let's get what's going on in the 20 camp.
Yeah, we're going to get a little clarification on what Dave was told about switching rides. You said that you were going to try to put Kyle in the car. What exactly did NASCAR tell you about trying to make that switch?
Well, we did want to put Kyle in the car. You know, we're not used to being in this position, but the rule book does state that you cannot swap veteran drivers. So if Matt was running the race, he's a rookie, it would be okay to put Kyle in there and shake it down, make sure everything's okay. But with qualifying and racing a veteran like Denny, the rule says that you cannot put another veteran in there. So it's the rule. I wasn't up to speed on it.
Either was Dale Jarrett, apparently, because he was a little bit confused as well. I know you just got off the phone with Denny. Is he going to be making it here for practice? And what's your biggest concern going into the race?
I don't have any concerns. We're fine. You know, everyone at Joe Gibbs Racing does such a good job preparing these race cars. We were top of the board off the truck with our primary car. That car has never won a race. Our backup car has. We're okay. You know, it'd been nice to shake it down, but you know, this is one big happy team at Joe Gibbs Racing, and it's really important for us at Denny to focus on that Cup ride and try to win that Nextel Cup championship for Joe Gibbs. So we'll be okay.
So Denny will not be making it here for practice?
No.
All right, Denny focusing on his Cup ride, but guys, optimism all over Dave Rogers' face right now.
Well, and let's be truthful here. I mean, yes, for the cameras, he's obviously going to focus on the positives. To the team, he's going to turn around and say, all right, here's the negatives. Here's what we got to deal with, guys.
Yeah, but he's got a good race driver tomorrow. And as far as Shannon, yeah, I stay confused a lot, so that's not anything that's surprising from my side. But I am surprised at the rule, and it's something that they had felt like they needed to put in the rule book. I really don't understand. You know, it would just be someone helping somebody out in a situation. But you know, I usually learn most of the things that are in that rule book the hard way whenever I was driving race cars. So just another one of those things that you learn if you stay around here long enough.
Well, Kyle Busch has moved up to 7th on the speed charts right now with his best lap at 23.88 seconds at 150.7 miles an hour, but they're all chasing Clint Boyer, just as they did in first practice. Down to about the final 14 minutes of final practice here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Let's talk about the schedule. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying is coming up next, and then the race presented by Burger King is Sunday. Race Chase number 2, 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC. And then we've got Nationwide Series qualifying 10:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning on ESPN2. And then the race at 3 Eastern, same channel. O'Reilly Superstart Batteries, NHRA Fall Nationals, both their shows also on ESPN2. The qualifying's at 12:15 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, and then the finals, 7 o'clock Eastern, Sunday night. 34th on the speed charts is the 81 of Bobby Hamilton Jr., 24.53 seconds at 146. This team needing to find a lot more speed.
Well, they need some more, but they got the right guy in there to do it. Remember Bobby running awfully well here in the past, but you know, it's a team that I think Bobby's doing some good things with, and getting some experience there for them and getting them in a really good direction. So see if he can pick it up a little bit.
Had a second place finish here back in 2003, Bobby did. Guy who's at the top of the charts and loving life right now, Clint Boyer, defending series champion, turned a total of 30 laps, and boy, the last one was the best one. They did the mock qualifying, and there you can see the drop off because of the sun, but other than that, he has been numero uno both sessions.
Yeah, they've been very solid. Looks like they really have this car feeling the way that Clint wants it to go fast.
Dropping back, it's only by 1/100th that Ryan Newman is in second place. And as you take a look at Tim Andrews, our first glimpse at Tim, he's 25th on the speed charts, has only turned a total of 4 laps as they just got out late in this session, but up to 24.25 seconds.
Yeah, and this is the son of Paul Andrews, the longtime crew chief in the Sprint Cup Series. And this young man has a lot of talent. He just needs an opportunity to show that. And, you know, I know that Paul and his family have spent a lot of money in trying to put Tim in some cars and do things. They've done it on their own for a lot of it. So hopefully this will be a good opportunity for him to get some time and showcase his talents.
Car looks like it's got a good, nice, clean line going through the corners. Not getting tail happy coming out of 2 or 4. Just turned another lap at 24.42 seconds.
Hey, looks very solid on the racetrack. I'm sure he, like everybody else, would like to go just a little bit faster, but those are good, solid times.
And Ken Butler's back in the 23 with the familiar Aaron's colors back on that car. He's having a bit of a struggle. He's turned a total of 20 laps. His best was lap 13 at 24.5 seconds. And that's only good enough for the 37th spot.
Yeah, and there again, this is a difficult racetrack to kind of get some experience on as far as going fast and what it takes to go fast around here. But these young guys have to come here. They have to be able to get in there and get laps on the racetrack. And each time that they do, they just get a little bit better.
One guy that we were taking a look at earlier was John West Townley in the morning session with the cloud cover. He was 9th on the speed charts, but now that the sun has come out, you can see he's dropped down to 28th.
Well, I tell you, that cool racetrack can give any driver a lot of confidence, and it can kind of mask maybe some problems that you have with your race car. And you know, the other side of it, they may be saving some tires here that they may still be on the same set of tires they ran in that first practice session, and you're not going to get a true indication of what you have there that they once had, because they only have a certain amount of tires that they have for the entire weekend in this series.
And the word is that the #1 car, Martin Truex, is back out on track, and there he goes zooming by. So, Andy, what's the latest?
Well, they're still struggling and throwing a lot of things at this car. They're scrambling in the garage, changing a lot of things at once. The last time in there, they changed the front springs back. They didn't like some of the things they had done the time before, so they kind of went back on a few adjustments. But they had to go ahead and get sticker tires on this run. So look for the one car to move up on the speed chart on this run. But like they have been on the same set of tires. We just heard Dale talking about how John West Townley may have been on the same set of tires. They have also until just now. So we'll see just how much speed they have, but they're just not happy with it. And we're not talking about little adjustments, fine adjustments. We're talking about big things like front springs and shocks and trailing arm adjustment. It's you know, they're still searching for that right setup.
Well, Andy just jumped to #8 on the speed charts with a lap of 23.82 at 151 miles an hour. Guy who's third on the speed charts is Carl Edwards, still in the garage area. There he is, just making his way back out. Don't know if I can't see any tape. We don't know if he's going to be making a mock run here or not, but time beginning to wind down in this final practice session. By my watch, about 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, these guys are trying to take advantage of all the time that they can. Still feel like that they have a chance to win this championship, even though they're just over 200 points out behind Kyle Busch. It'll take Kyle Busch really messing up before he's able to do that, but they're going to still battle.
Well, remember last year when he had that late season surge? I mean, he was further back at this point last year and came within 21 points of winning the championship. But it's going to take some big race results. He's going to have to win at least probably 3 of those races. As you can see, there's the sequence down the stretch where he had the 3 victories in the last 4 races with a second in there at Texas, and he ends up 21 markers behind. And he had a bigger deficit back then than he does now. But That's still a big road to go.
Okay. Yeah, it's well, yeah, they still have a chance. We've got a little more explanation on this situation of the 20 car and trying to get Kyle Busch into this car. There is a procedure now that we're being told that you can, as the crew chief, go through to get another veteran driver into the car. So they needed to report this to NASCAR. They can go to them and get their blessings with it. They have done that now, so they can put Kyle Busch in this 20 car. So there is a procedure that you can go to have it done. You just can't. Dave Rogers was unaware of the procedure that you had to do, as I was too. So now we both know a little bit better. Next time this should happen.
I have a feeling if we polled everybody in our audience, no one knew about that rule. So don't feel bad at all. And we'll be back in just a moment to see if Kyle can get out before the flag flies, because there's only about 7 minutes remaining in final practice. Back here at Dover International Speedway, NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice. And Matt Kenseth has moved to the top of the speed charts as we check in right now with Reed Sorensen as he is back out on track. Currently 14th on the speed charts, Jamie.
Not bad, Marty. He's only turned 13 laps. Remember, at the top of the show, we reported that he had a crash in first practice this morning. Reed Sorensen's making his debut in this 10 car. They're in a backup, so they've been spending this practice session just adjusting and getting him up to speed. Now he says he's a little tight. Of course, Stuart Cooper, joking, that's his crew chief, told me I snugged him up this time. He's not going to be too loose this practice. You're watching Reed. He's on his first mock qualifying run, so we'll see if he can jump up in those charts. He came out here 14th, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and his last lap was 23.92 seconds. No help. It keeps him 14th as he continues to surge. Whoa, that was close.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with John West Townley right there. You like for him to get you see putting his hand out the window. Cars going around slow on the bottom of the racetrack in times like this where you know a lot of guys are out here making mock qualifying efforts.
Well, remember the story we talked about, the fact that they appealed to NASCAR to get Kyle Busch into the 20? Well, he's in the 18.
Yeah, he's approved, but doesn't look like they're going to have enough time to get him out in the 20 car. Of course, they had things to do with the 20 car. All of this came about kind of late, so made it a difficult chore for them. But they know the next time, if they should ever get themselves in this situation again.
Kyle still 8th on the speed charts, looking for some more answers, not in the spot where he wants to be, heading into qualifying tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. There you can see his numbers. Everybody has fallen off from the first practice session. If you weren't with us all throughout, it was overcast. You can see the sun is out. It has changed the track conditions, and everyone has gone a little bit slower this second session.
Yeah, they'll pick it up tomorrow morning at 10:30, especially those guys going early, so it'll be an advantage for them as they get going.
And let's talk about some of those guys. Reed Sorensen's going to be second out, Brad Keselowski third, Clint Boyer fourth, Martin Truex sixth. Big advantage.
Yeah, it is a huge advantage. I think anybody in those top 10, 15 spots is going to have a big advantage. The only thing that they will have a question about is there's a race here this afternoon with the Camping World East guys that will put down a little bit different rubber, but I think that's trumped by a cool racetrack tomorrow morning. We'll see some fast speeds.
There's Eric McClure, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, you mentioned a lot of other guys. Where does the points leaders come in? Well, Kyle Busch has the worst of the group. He will go out 28th in qualifying tomorrow. Carl Edwards right in the middle of the pack at 14th out tomorrow.
Yeah, and in that second spot, Mike Bliss has moved up to that second spot with a 23.67.
His mock qualifying run, very successful as he moves into the number 2 position, as you mentioned. How about the top 10 with total laps being run? As you can see on the right side there, leader in the clubhouse is 56 with Kyle Busch. Does that give you an idea that they do not have the answers that they're looking for?
I think he just, he wants to get a win here. He thought he had one here back in June, but he wants to try to do that. You see Scott Speed up there in the 6th. He has a truck win here, so he knows how to get around this racetrack.
Kenseth and Bliss, the only two that have cracked 152 miles an hour in their average lap. Now remember, this is a 1-mile track, and that is flat out flying here at Dover. We've talked a little bit about it, but what do you expect? Who do you think is going to end up taking the pole tomorrow?
Well, I think Clint Boyer's got a really good spot to do this. I think he's been fast in both.
Yeah, he certainly has. I'll tell you one thing, though. If practice for Doc was anything like the first time, as we bring Jerry Punch in, I mean, it looks like it could be an all-Hendrick show coming up on qualifying.
Jimmy Johnson trying to pick up where he left off back in May when he dominated here. Now Johnson, Gordon, and Martin each having 4 wins at this racetrack. Marty, we're moments away from qualifying for the NASCAR Sprint Cup cars. And folks, although the chase takes place over a 10-race period, there was definitely a sense of urgency in race 1 last Sunday at New Hampshire.